What is going on today, guys? AU here, and today we're bringing you week 7. I'm pretty sure week 7 of the ISL Game of the Weeks. Just like in the past weeks, we're starting out with beginners, veterans. If you want to check out your Game of the Week, it's going to be in a timestamp below. And yeah, we're going to jump right into it. If you are new here, subscribe and hit the like button. It's been a little bit since I put up a video. I don't do videos Saturday, Sunday. Didn't get a chance to record something for yesterday. This is going up Tuesday. Tomorrow we'll have a playthrough. Hopefully, if I get that, I should be able to get that all edited. And then Thursday, Friday we'll have a team builder and a battle video. And then hopefully next week I've got a capture card coming in. So hopefully I can do some in-game content depending on if I get it to work, but that's gonna be a thing for next week. So like I said, if you are new here, subscribe, and if you think you're subscribed and you're not, check it out and just make sure you are. So we're gonna jump right into the game of the weeks this week. The first one we have in beginners is going to be the San Antonio Tyrantrums versus the Union of Fish. We've talked about San Antonio Tyrantrums a couple times on the channel before. It is Coach Primal Rush, who also has a YouTube channel where he does a lot of draft league content. There's even a match of me versus him on his channel. So definitely check that out. Check out his channel if you want to watch some good draft content, especially if you were here for my draft content and it's kind of, I don't have any draft content right now. So definitely check out his, and there's a couple other people who have been mentioned in these videos in the past, so check them out. But we're looking at a team who Primal right now is 4-1. I guess he has not played his week 6 game. He's in a pretty tight playoff race in another league that we are in. It's actually the league that we battled in. Closest playoff race I've ever seen, so he might be a little bit behind with his matches because of that. We are waiting on one last game for him to see if he's going to make playoffs or not, so he might still be waiting on that before he wants to focus on any other games, or the doc might just not be, or might not be updated. I have no idea. But the Union of Fish are now 4-2 with a differential of 6. San Antonio Tyrantrums still have to play their game. If they go 5-1, obviously their differential is going to get pretty high. So even if the Union of Fish beat them, they would probably still stay first unless they win the next game by like enough differential to where like a 5-0 or a 6-0 from the Union of Fish puts that swing in the opposite direction. Now if they lose this next game and then the Union of Fish win this next game, then there's no doubt about it, the Union of Fish would be the #1 spot. And there's not really a way that, actually, if he loses both games and the Tennessee Toxtricities and the Tulsa Torteras win their next one game, they have the possibility of passing Primal. So like these next 2 games that he has could swing him in a big way, but as of right now I think he's fine. Also the Cryptic Crowbats with Polo, they are waiting on a game, it looks like, and I don't remember who that's against, but depending on how he does in that game could also affect how these next 2 games play out for Primal and where he'll end up in the standings if he were to lose both of those games. But either way, this whole Johto division is pretty close, honestly. We have 2 possible 4-2s, 2 3-3s, a possible another 3-3, actually 2 more possible 3-3s, a 2-4, and a possible 1 more 2-4. So like Johto division is pretty close. Sinnoh division a little bit not as close. I think there's still a couple games being waiting to play on that side, but we're kind of just focusing on the Johto division right now. I do have the matchup doc pulled up, just like always. This is the first time I'm looking at it. I do know Primal's team pretty well though, just because I pretty much watch his games, and I see his team builders and stuff. So his team obviously has the Melmetal, Slowbro, Rotom Heat Core, which is, and he has Vaporeon too, which is kind of broken to me. Melmetal's a stupid Pokemon. I've joked around about how I wanted to use it in a draft, but I can fully confirm that Melmetal in draft is completely broken, and after this season it's gonna be banned. But yeah, Melmetal is just stupid, especially when you pair it with Rotom Heat and Mega Slowbro, or a Slowbro of any kind, because those 2 Pokemon are the ones that usually counter Melmetal. So having them on your team, the same with Vaporeon, having that on your team, taking those counters away is going to make it a little bit difficult to do. But honestly, I think that JCaps has a pretty good matchup in this one. Infernape can run special. Diancie obviously is a special attacker. Now it is super weak to Melmetal, but at the same time, any kind of special move is going to deal a lot of damage to Melmetal. So you've got Breloom, which is super effective. Inteleon, like I said, any special move is going to deal a lot of damage. Articuno can deal a lot of damage, even though it is weak. The Garchomp, a rough skin Rocky Helmet Garchomp. Melmetal doesn't want to hit that with a double Iron Bash because it's just going to do just as much damage back to the Melmetal as it is to the Garchomp. And then, like I said, you have the Infernape to hit it super effectively. So JCaps has ways to deal with the Melmetal. The biggest thing is when he deals with the way you have to deal with Primal Steam is you have to deal with Melmetal and Slowbro and Rotom Heat at the same time with one Pokemon. So like I kind of like Inteleon for that because it gives Dark Pulse, it gets Snipe Shot, just because that's going to hit Melmetal pretty effectively. It also hits the Rotom. Vaporeon is probably going to be a good Inteleon check, just so like that's probably going to be the thing that comes in on Inteleon a lot. The thing is, Inteleon does get U-turn. I think getting the momentum versus Primal is where he's going to lose that game, because you have U-turn on the Inteleon, you've got Volt Switch on Morpeko. I'm pretty sure Articuno gets U-turn. The Infernape gets U-turn. So like, there's a good bit of pivoting options. Now he does have Rotom with Volt Switch. He has Vaporeon with Baton Pass and Rillaboom with U-turn. And I think that's it. I don't think anything else on his team. Actually, Slowbro gets Teleport, I think, but he usually doesn't run Teleport on his Slowbro. One thing to look out for is JCap's team is relatively faster than Primals, so Trick Room Mega Slowbro could definitely be a bring. Outside of the 6 Pokemon Primal usually brings, it's going to be something like Slowbro, Melmetal, Rotom Heat, Vaporeon, Piloswine, and then something along the lines of Scolipede, Armaldo, or looking at, I don't think Grimmsnarl comes, looking at JCaps' team. Rillaboom might come. Rillaboom doesn't, I mean, Rillaboom deals with the Inteleon. Like, I ran AV Rillaboom against Rogers in one of our other leagues, and AV Rillaboom is actually a complete monster. The thing about it is Infernape just wrecks Rillaboom. Breloom can deal with Rillaboom. The Celesteela is going to be able to deal with the Rillaboom. So I don't think Rillaboom comes either. It's between Scolipede and Armaldo, whichever one he wants to run. If he brings Armaldo, I personally would watch out for the Trick Room. If he brings Scolipede, he might not be running Trick Room. He's still going to be running like a soft Trick Room kind of thing, but I probably wouldn't expect it. He likes to try to pass speed onto his Melmetal just because Melmetal usually wrecks a lot of teams. The only good thing is you have Celesteela, you have Garchomp, so I mean that's not a lot of counters to Melmetal, but it definitely is some counters to Melmetal, and pretty good ones I would say. But like Celesteela doesn't want to take a Thunder Punch, and Garchomp actually could probably take any kind of hit that Melmetal wants to bring. So obviously if you're Primal, you're prepping for Garchomp, and you want to find out a way to get rid of that thing to let your Melmetal do work. If you're JCaps, you want to find out a way to get rid of Melmetal, and we all know JCaps. If you're not in this league, JCaps finds a way to turn a Pokemon into a stally kind of Pokemon. He brought Rest Garchomp one week, I think, to this. So I don't know. I feel like if you're JCaps this week, you might want to be a little bit more offensive, just because Melmetal is gonna out-break your stall. Like if you're running kind of stally sets, or I don't know what else to call them besides stally sets. Like Subseed Breloom is not gonna work against Melmetal. Rest Garchomp is not gonna work against Melmetal. So if you're JCaps, you definitely want to go on the offense a little bit more this week, because if you try to go defensive, Melmetal is just going to break through it. Melmetal's easily the best stall breaker in the game. Like it's even better than Conkeldurr to me. So like if you're JCaps, you definitely don't want to be trying to outstall Melmetal, because it's just going to break your team if you do. Looking at some weaknesses, obviously Infernape can kind of go in. Infernape's typing is just great. I would probably expect a special Infernape if I'm Primal. If you aren't special, you're some kind of mixed set, because that's what's gonna special's gonna hit Melmetal the hardest, and Infernape's special attack is just as high as its attack. It's just that it won't get Iron Fist boost from things like Fire Punch or something. So, but it's definitely gonna do more damage to the Melmetal as a special attacker, and it gets things like Gunk Shot for the Comfy. It's also neutral to Comfy. The biggest thing is you're going to want to find out how to deal with the Slowbro. I don't know if it gets Dark Pulse or not, but if it does, then that's going to be pretty good. Obviously, more Pico deals with Slowbro, but it does get hard countered by Trick Room, because once you use the Aura Will thing, then you're at +1 speed. He sets up Trick Room, and obviously you don't want to really stay in while you're in Trick Room, so that's one thing. J-Cap's biggest thing is going to be his ground type weakness, which Piloswine is Primal's ground type, which isn't super offensive, but its attack stat is not horrible. Yeah, base 100 attack, its attack stat's not horrible. Obviously he's going to be bulky. Getting a knockoff on this thing is going to be the most important thing. I think more Pico does get knockoff, which Piloswine would usually come in on more Pico than most. Thick Fat, so you want to watch out for Thick Fat with fire type moves from Infernape. Usually want to be hitting Piloswine with like fighting type moves or water type move from Inteleon. I think Grass is still super effective against him, but I could be wrong. I definitely could be wrong there. Another thing is the water type weakness. Obviously Slowbro is just a bulky Pokemon with shell armor, so you're not critting it. So if he gets up some boost, he can definitely stall out this team right here. It hits Diancie. I think it gets Thunderbolt for Stella. It gets Ice Beam for Breloom. It gets Thunderbolt again. I don't know how it hits more Pico. I don't think it can. Thunderbolt, Scald, Ice Beam, and Psychic. So it gets things to hit almost every single one on the team. So it's going to sit there and it's just going to do chip damage to the whole team. Honestly, it's going to chip, it's going to recover, it's going to chip and recover and chip and recover. So somehow you've got to find out a way to get rid of the Slowbro. And once the Slowbro's gone, then you can kind of work on dealing with the Melmetal. But like I said, the art to beating Primal's team is learning how to deal with these top three right here at the same time, and having moves that you can hit all three of these Pokemon with and put pressure on him, because once Primal has pressure on him, it's going to be really hard for him to come back. So applying pressure to these top three, maybe top four Pokemon here is going to be where you really run away with the game, which is why I suggest going pretty offensive with your sets this week if you do plan on trying to beat those top four Pokemon. Outside of that, I don't think there's much more to say. Like I said, it's kind of one of those things. I think the matchup is probably in J-Cap's favor, honestly. I know Melmetal's a beast, but I like J-Cap's team versus Primal's. I like his team a lot. I think J-Caps has the tools to break these top four Pokemon. If you're Primal, you want to learn how to you have to make the reads and protect these top four and kind of cycle them in and out. Get the chip, get Melmetal in, kill something, get more chip, get Melmetal in again, kill something. So that's going to be the battle. It's going to be the battle of whether J-Cats can break these top four, and if he doesn't, then Primal probably just runs away with the game by getting chip with Slowbro, Vaporeon, and Rotom, and then just coming in with Melmetal and cleaning everything up. Another thing is honestly looking out for a Scolipede to come in and clean things up. It definitely gets coverage for everything. Poison Jab, once Stella has chip on it, you could probably carry Rock Slide it, and that would do enough for it. You get Power Whip for the Inteleon, Poison Jab for Breloom. You get anything's gonna basically kill more Pico. I mean, look at the HP and defense. You get, like I said, Rock Slide, Power Whip. I don't know how you hit Shuckle. Once you're faster than the Infernape, you're probably gonna kill it too, especially after a Swords Dance. Swords Dance speed boost Scolipede. I witnessed a sweep of that in NPAA. It's definitely not a joke. So J-Caps is gonna have to bring some kind of Scarf Pokemon just to kind of outspeed there. I think Inteleon, Inteleon's his only fast enough one to be Scarfed and still outspeed Scolipede after +1. Primal does like to run Protect Scolipede just to guarantee the speed boost. I don't think you need to this week, honestly. I think you need those 4 slots, or I think you need like Swords Dance 3 attacks if you're going kind of offensive Scolipede. If you're going Baton Pass Scolipede, then obviously the Protect set is going to be a little bit better if you're going to pass it in Melmetal. But yeah, I think if I had to pick a good matchup, it's going to be J-Caps. But like I said, Primal's a pretty good player. Definitely should not probably be in beginners. So if he wins, I won't be surprised. But I do think J-Caps has a better matchup. And with that, we're going to finally jump into the Veterans matchup. Alright, and we're here with Veterans. And the teams that we are looking at today are going to be the Anaheim Magnemite Ducks, whose coach is Rogers. And then the Houston Heracross, not the Houston Hoopas. The Houston Heracross is going to be the other coach who is, no, not Fist, Nut, who is Nut. So these two players are honestly really good players. Rogers just got back from like a week-long hiatus, and 6-0'd, I think. So definitely want to watch out for him. His team is kind of broken, honestly, which you'll see in the beginning, but it does have some weaknesses, which I will have to point out. You can see I did not do so hot this past week. I did win. I actually faced Rogers 2 weeks ago. I did beat Rogers, and then this past week I lost to Sandforce, Banded, Adamant, Excadrill. So my team is a little bit more offensive than what I'm usually used to, but I'll pick up pretty soon here. When I got the team, it was already 1-3, I think. I don't know what it was. I think it was 1-3. So I went 1-1 since I've been inside the league with my own team. But yeah, so if honestly the Kanto division again is pretty tight, depending on who wins this game. It's a pretty big swing. If Rogers loses, he goes down. We're assuming that the Mienfoos and the Hoopas both win. So if Rogers loses, he goes down to at least 4th. Yeah, I think it's only 4th. I think he can only go down to 4th because the Beedrill's differential is a little bit too low to boost over Rogers, even if Rogers does lose 0-6. So Rogers would only be 4th, but then obviously Nut would have the chance to become number 1. Again, their differentials are close enough to where these games between these 4 people are gonna affect the standings a lot. Now, is it gonna drop somebody out of playoffs? No. I also don't think that anybody in this league gets a bye, so you're kind of just going for seeding. But all in all, everyone in this league is a good battler. So really, even if you're first seed, your round 1 playoffs match is not going to be any kind of pushover. So honestly, as long as you're sitting top 4, I think it is in each division, then you're pretty safe. Actually, I think it might be top 6. I have no idea. I'm pretty stupid. I don't know. And there's nothing here to show about playoffs. But we're gonna jump right into the matchup. And like I said, Rogers' team is very offensive. He has Mega Charizard X, Lando T, Primarina, Metagross, Hitmonchan, Nihilego, Galvantula, Weavile. But Nut's team is also pretty offensive. He has some size spam between like Mega Medicham and Latios. Greninja, even with Torrent, is still really strong. It's a Pokemon that I thought I was not going to draft just as a Torrent Pokemon, but sooner or later I probably will. Durant to me in draft is a little underwhelming. He's also got Venusaur, Minior as like a rock setter, which I think is going to be really important in this match. Togetic, Darmanitan Galarian form, I think it can only be Zen mode, but even Zen mode Galarian Darmanitan is still pretty scary. Corsola obviously is a very physical wall, so Charizard's gonna have to find out a way to get around that Corsola. You're gonna have to click a knockoff on Landorus or something to get rid of that Corsola's Eviolite. That way Charizard can do work. Mudsdale, again, another physical wall, because once you hit it once with a physical move, it just boosts it, or I think once you hit it once, period, it just boosts its defense. So you're gonna have to deal with the Mudsdale probably with like Primarina, or like Energy Ball from Galvantula or something like that. And then the Xurkitree, which can kind of run wild on the team if Landorus is gone. So we'll take a look here and we'll talk about the weakness that Rogers has. Rogers did get first in the power rankings just because this team is, you can see this total base stats right here is 536 on average. It's like insanely high. But his problem is he doesn't have a great way to get rid of like hazards on his team. Also, knowing Rogers, he doesn't usually tend to get rid of the hazards on his side anyways, which is kind of hard because of Charizard X. If you manage to get rocks up before Mega Charizard X comes in, Mega Charizard X's usage just goes way down. If you watched my GBF draft up to the week that I did get to make it to before I got too busy to continue with it, I had Mega Charizard X, and the thing was, it's so hard to bring Charizard X in to get a sweep when you're at 50%. You come in and you have to run your Mega Stone. You can't run Boots, so you have to come in and you have to take the 50%. Obviously, you EV it to a way to where you stay at 51%. But still, being at 51%, it doesn't give you much room to go for a Dragon Dance. It definitely doesn't give you much room to go for 2 Dragon Dances. So it's going to be, once you get the rocks up, he's going to have to worry about trying to get those rocks away. And while he's worrying about getting the rocks away, you deal damage to Landorus, you deal damage to the Hitmonchan, depending on if he wants to bring Hitmonchan to spin, or if he has Defog on Landorus. If he has neither one of those things, there's not much he can do about the rocks, and it just really tanks his whole team down a lot. Especially with usually the way he plays is very he likes to switch a lot. He usually has U-turn. He'll probably run U-turn Landorus. He'll probably run Volt Switch Galvantula. I don't think anything anything else on his team can really pivot, which is very rare for Rogers to draft a team like that. But I know he is trying to go around with kind of like a different play style, kind of the same approach that I'm taking with the team that I drafted. But he does like to pivot a lot. He likes to get his momentum and pivot a lot. So getting rocks up versus this team with the way he plays, honestly, is going to hurt him a lot. And he was kind of messing around with me when I was talking about the power rankings. I pointed out the fact that he's going to have a hard time with hazards, and it's still true. I don't think he really picked up anything to help him with the hazards. But so you really have all the hazards that you need. You've got 3 rock setters, really good rock setters, and then Greninja as a spikes and a T-spike setter. Honestly, if you do that, he does have Nihilego as a ground and poison, but Nihilego doesn't want to take spikes damage. So like hazards can mess him up, and if you prioritize those hazards, he has to prioritize getting rid of them. And if he doesn't, then you can probably apply enough pressure along with the hazards to force your way through the team. His team does have a pretty big fire weakness, which on this side of the field there is no fire type, I don't think. And there's not really any great fire type coverage unless you're running Flare Blitz on the Darmanitan, Galarian Darmanitan. Yeah, so it's gonna be kind of rough. I think honestly, anytime I look at Rogers' team, I think Rogers has the matchup advantage. A bulky Latios though, bulky D-Dance Latios, could be kind of interesting versus this team, because like it definitely, does it get Dragon Claw or does it only get Outrage? I don't know the physical dragon moves that Latios gets, but obviously Primarina is going to be hard to deal with Latios. A mixed Latios set could be kind of good. Venusaur is going to have to come in on Primarina all the time. Primarina does get Ice Beam, which hits Latios, hits Venusaur, hits Minior, hits Togetic, hits Mudsdale. So like it can hit a good bit of the team. Outside of that, other things that Nut could bring, obviously you probably want to bring the Mega Medicham. Does it have the speed advantage? It speed ties Mega Charizard, so unless it has a D-Dance up, you can always gamble that if you need to. The Greninja obviously is a pretty good bring, just for the fact that, like I said, it can set up T-Spikes and Spikes. It gets U-turn, priority, so it can deal with the Metagross. So you probably want to bring the Greninja. Outside of that, I'm not entirely sure. I would say right now I'm looking at things like Corsola for walls against like Metagross and Charizard and Landorus, and Hitmonchan doesn't want to be in on Weavile, honestly. Probably could outstall the Licky Licky, I would think. So Corsola is probably a pretty likely bring. The Mudsdale again is probably a pretty likely bring. It just deals with the Metagross. It deals with the Nihilego. It deals with Galvantula to an extent. It deals with Weavile to an extent, even though Weavile's Icicle Crash is going to be super effective. If you get like an Iron Defense up or something, then Iron Defense Body Press actually can kind of do a lot of work to that side of the field. I think Mudsdale gets Body Press, I'm pretty sure. That was a pretty common BGC set, so like Iron Defense Body Press could definitely be a bring on the Mudsdale. So if it doesn't get Iron Defense, it might get like Bulk Up or something, but I'm pretty sure it gets a way to boost its defense. On Roger's side of the field, obviously the Charizard X, any Charizard X team is gonna really scare the other team. Honestly, Charizard X scares this team a lot, especially after a Dragon Dance, unless it's Scarf Latios. Yeah, Scarf Latios would outspeed. A Scarf Greninja would outspeed. But outside of that, like Minior outspeeds, but I don't know if you bring a Scarf Minior. it would be kind of hype if he brought Scarf Meteor just because of like the rock weakness on the Charizard, but I don't know if he's actually gonna do that. But it would be kind of cool. So after Charizard gets a D-Dance up, if you're not Scarf Latios, even Scarf Greninja, like it gets Ice Beam, but that's neutral on Charizard. So even if it is Scarfed, it's not going to deal a lot of damage to a full health Charizard. So if he gets it in before rocks are up and he gets a D-Dance off and you're not Scarf Latios, then you could have a rough time. The other thing is Landorus. Landorus isn't great versus a lot of the teams, surprisingly, but it is good against Xurkitree and it is good against Mega Medicham. I don't think Mega Medicham gets Ice Punch. Probably want to check that out to see if it does. But you don't want to be in on Greninja, you don't want to be in on the Latios, you don't want to be in on the Darmanitan. So Landorus is a pretty tough bring because it has a really good matchup versus the Xurkitree and the Medicham, but then there's a couple other things that it doesn't have a great matchup against, so you definitely want to watch out for it. Primarina, I think it's an obvious bring. Primarina is going to come. Specs might be a thing, Calm Mind might be a thing. I can see a couple different Primarina sets coming to this matchup because if it's not Venusaur, then or if it's not Venusaur and it's not Xurkitree, then a lot of these Pokemon are probably going to have a hard time. With Primarina. Outside of that, the Iron Defense Cofagrigus to deal with Medicham, to deal with Darmanitan probably, deal with Mudsdale. It's kind of a good set. I think Cofagrigus is just here to kind of get like a Toxic-off on a bulky Latios, get a Toxic-off on Corsola. I don't know if it gets knockoff. It might can knock off the Corsola. If not, then it can hit it with like a Shadow Claw or something. Even though the base attack is 50, maybe it needs to hit it with like Shadow Ball or something like that. The biggest thing is it's going to be able to wall Mega Medicham. I think Mega Medicham gets knocked off, but after the items knocked off, it probably still is not doing a lot of damage to the Cofagrigus here. Webs, he can run webs with Galvantula. When I had Galvantula and Charizard, did not like it that much. I don't think it really helps out a lot here because the Latios is Levitate, so Scarf Latios doesn't get that drop still. So I doubt he wastes a turn to set up webs. He probably will just go. He'll probably just go more offensive Galvantula if he does bring it. If he does get it webs, it's going to be for something like a Scarf Darmanitan or Greninja. Or just a guarantee he wins the speed tie versus Medicham. But outside of that, I don't think it's a great bring. He does really like Licky Licky. The biggest part is that Licky Licky can kind of get hit pretty hard by a lot of these Pokemon. Darmanitan gets Superpower. Medicham obviously gets plenty of fighting type moves. I think Mudsdale gets close combat. So like there are plenty of things that can hit the Licky Licky that you want to be watching out for. Licky Licky probably serves as a special wall right here, but then Latios just got Aura Sphere with DLC, so that's definitely a thing you also want to watch out for. But Licky Licky should be pretty much a special wall this game, I think. I don't think you want to be in on many of the physical attackers, so you'd probably want to take that up with Cofagrigus as your physical wall / Landorus. Those two should be able to take care of all the physical attackers on that side of the field. And then Weavile obviously just does a ton of damage. It will hit the Medicham, Latios, it can hit Greninja with Brick Break, it'll hit the Togetic, it'll hit the Corsola, it'll hit the Mudsdale, so it can hit a lot of things. It's just if there's Scarf, you'll have to watch out for it, but it is the fastest thing on the dock right now, so it definitely is a likely bring. You just have to watch out for random fighting moves on any kind of Pokemon that's going to be able to take out Weavile. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Looking at the matchup, I think Rogers probably takes it, just because his team is really good. Now Nuts' team is also kind of scary, but I think overall Rogers' offense can out offense Nuts' offense. It just depends on who gets rid of either Licky Licky / Cofagrigus or Corsola / Mudsdale or Corsola / Bulky Latios first. Whoever does that is going to be able to take the game, because once you get rid of the other team's bulky Pokemon, then each team's offensive Pokemon can out offense the other teams once they get set up in any kind of way. So with that, this is going to be a pretty interesting week. It's going to be a pretty interesting week looking at playoff races, It's going to be a pretty interesting week of games and a lot of good players in the games of the week this week. So that is where I'm going to leave you. So if you like what you saw, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.